Okay, it says we've gone live on our September board meeting. Board President Golick, you have the floor on YouTube here.
Thanks, John. So with that, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:33. Amy, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Hope?
Here.
Sean?
Here.
Nancy?
Here.
Josh?
Here.
Michelle?
Here.
Vasa?
Here.
Ashley?
Here.
Shannon? And Jed?
Here.
Thanks, Amy. So we do have a quorum, and under Executive Order N29-20, we are authorized to hold public meetings via teleconference and to make public meetings accessible telephonically or otherwise electronically to all members of the public. Members of the public are encouraged to observe and participate in this meeting. Further instructions are included at the bottom of our agenda, but if you could please email admin@westlakecharter.com up to 250 words. We can read your comment into the record that way. Please note in the subject line what item your comment is for, so it's easier for us to track when to present that comment to the board. With that, I will move on to celebrations. Who wants to go first? Ashley's first. We'll go alphabetical tonight.
Okay, I have three, but I'm going to make two lightning fast and save the best for last. I got word at 4 o'clock today that I was accepted to the grant, which makes my MAE that I got accepted, my Master's of Arts in Education, that I was accepted to last week, about a fifth of the price. And so me and my husband have been dancing around the living room. And I start in 2 weeks. And then my son and I had this great conversation that led me to realize I should celebrate in this forum. He's been very embarrassed to share some news about himself. He thought it might be boasting. And we talked about the power of share and how it could really help someone. So I want to share that my son was in a really terrible bird accident in May, many of you know, and was horrible. And we were sent to a place I didn't know about that is apparently the best for children. It's one of the top 10 clinics in the country, and it's right down the road. And they invited him to be part of their new PR stuff to help spread the word that they are the best of who they are. So if you watch any of the top 20 TV networks, you'll see Aiden playing the drums and celebrating the amazingness that Shriners is. And so grateful that he could end his story in a way that would help others. And his whole story is on their website too. So just a really happy ending to a really hard time. And then my best for last is that if you are familiar with Sacramento News and Review paper, in the summer they always send out and try to do the best of for restaurants, and they say the best happy hour and the best appetizers and the best hamburger, and they felt like that wasn't the best thing to do for restaurants, to start judging who was better in this time. And so they revoked that article and traded it for a nomination of pandemic heroes, and they put out guidelines around that, and lots of our staff and some board members nominated our wonderful director, John Ike, and knowing that we should nominate our entire admin team because he is his team. He's the leader of his team, and we knew that based on the parameters they set, if we were going to get someone, we were just going to get one, so let's get the leader because he speaks for his team. And so I just want to read my entry. My entry is one of many. We were really excited. The article was released. Was that this week? What day was that? That felt like 3 weeks ago.
It was late last week.
Late last week. But it is digital, so you can go on their website now if you don't want to try to track an article down, and you can see it digital on page 19. The wonderful Nancy, hers was the one chosen to be posted, but they acknowledged all the great submissions. So I just want to read the words that I shared. I think it's a similar sentiment that most people had, and John was able to read many people's submissions. Mr. Ike is the executive director of Westlake Charter School. From the moment actions were necessary for the safety and health of our WCS community, Mr. Ike has been instrumental in keeping our district connected, safe, informed, and learning. Mr. Ike has facilitated the entire WCS community through one of the toughest times in education has ever seen. He led the administration and education team in creating what became a statewide exemplar for distance learning model, while simultaneously serving our student body through distance learning. Mr. Ike's focus on equity and inclusion allowed our district to prepare devices and hotspots for families long before this became the norm. He is a beacon of light in these dark times, the strongest, kindest, and most thoughtful leader any school has ever seen. Westlake families are so very lucky to have him leading our way. And so he is in the article as one of Sacramento's pandemic heroes. So
Thank you. I am super embarrassed. But thank you for your kind words. And truly, every decision that has been made since the moment this pandemic started until this very moment now, every single decision that's been made has been made as a team because we believe in shared leadership. And so while I appreciate your kind words, Ashley, you know that they belong to the entire team. So thank you for acknowledging that. This place really benefits from this shared leadership model. But thank you so much for your kind words.
So alphabetically, I'm next. I too celebrated John in governance, so I will share him the love of reading my submission right now. But what I would instead like to do is actually celebrate the governance committee. We had one of the best meetings we've had, and we haven't met since May thanks to COVID, but it still was one of the best meetings in a really long time, with pushback and feedback and really trustful discussion. And so I just wanted to shout out that committee and thank them for their participation. These are long nights, and so I really value it. Next is, hey, John, do you want to go? You're next. Jed's next.
I would love to.
John.
Did you say me or Jed? Oh, sorry.
I did say you, but I'm doing this alphabetical thing on the fly, so it's a little iffy. So it's Jed, then John, then Josh.
Got it.
Lots of J's.
I think the last board meeting I celebrated Hope because she's such an awesome board chair. Let's see. This month I think I'll celebrate Hope because she's such an awesome board chair. And the way she handled the governance committee, I mean, my gosh, it's amazing what you've done in all your years of service, and it just keeps getting better. And maybe I'll do it again next month, too.
As you should.
Thank you, Jed. I, too, love it, John. You and I are very similar in this fashion. So, John, would you like to save yours, or do you want to go now?
You know what? I do have a personal celebration I would like to share because my board slides are filled with Westlake celebrations. And I know this is awkward, so I'll try and keep it quick. I use this at Coffee Talk, but today is September 10th. In 2 days, it is September 12th. And on September 12th, my amazing mother, Ellie Ike, is turning 80 years old, and we would love to throw her a big old party because she deserves it. She is that person, is the center of any room. She walks in a room, she lights up with a smile, tells a story, and has everyone either in tears or in stitches. She is the life of the party. We would love to throw a party, but because of COVID, we can't. And so we're going to throw her a Zoom party, and we're bringing in people from around the country to hang out with my dear mother. If there's anything at all that you like about me, I said this the other day, if there's even a little something, Amy, even anything at all you like about me, guaranteed it came from my mom, Eleanor Ike. She's an amazing human being. She turns 80 on Saturday, so happy birthday on YouTube, Mom. I love you.
So awesome. I love mothers. Josh, then Michelle.
I was going to celebrate perseverance and adaptability because I know with everything that's going on, the kids continue to just keep pushing through and they adapt on the fly. And we can even see it, John, and your staff and the teachers and everything they're doing. So I just want to celebrate the openness to, adapt and persevere.
Michelle, Nancy, and then Sean.
So I'm going to do one quick one and then one serious one. One is just, can we celebrate pets? Because I saw Amy's dog, and if it's anything like my dog, they are getting us through the stay at home and the pandemic. And I started a whole album of my dog in very cozy places around the house. So it's been great. But seriously, I want to celebrate Mr. Malev, Amaya's 5th grade teacher. He's new to us. We didn't know him before this. And so when I reached out to him right before school started and said, you know, I have some concerns. Amaya doesn't seem to have joyful learning right now, and she's really not confident in her abilities. And he wrote back and said, I'm going to make it my mission to make sure that she enjoys herself and that she is having a good time. And he, you know, when people say that, you're like, great, thank you. But he has really made it his mission. She's thriving. She's had good marks on her test, which I was really worried about. And she is super confident. She came and ran in during a Zoom meeting, by the way, but came and ran into my home little room office and said, Mom, I got a this out of this on my test. And Mr. Malev told me to check my score because I rocked it, and he thinks I'm so smart. And so she just has such confidence about her. And I will continue to celebrate that because it is amazing.
And we're all about the hands. I like the hands. Nancy, Sean, then Vasa.
All right. So my September celebration is very similar to all the other September celebrations that I've had since I've been on the board, which really goes to how my kids are thriving as they continue their education. This morning I was actually thinking about all the teachers that Sarah's had since kindergarten, and she started at Westlake in 4th grade. And so, she's in her 2nd year of college. Is that possible? But I think about, all the teachers that she's had, Sandra Crenshaw and all the way to Caroline Naya and, Amber Sutton and all of these teachers that, helped guide her into this full love of learning. And I see where my boys are now at Intercom, and they have set a foundation that was built at Westlake that, I always come back to this, they're having a great year already because of the foundation that they have. So I so very much appreciate Westlake, and while I have no children there anymore, it's still obviously near and dear to my heart. So. And my other celebration is that out of all the nominations, I said this to Ashley and Hope earlier today, I'm like, I have no idea how my nomination got published because everybody else was so much more eloquent that it made me happy that it was there. Because I was like, I actually looked at the article and I'm like, oh, where's everybody else's nomination? I'm like, oh, that's nice, but oh my gosh, all these other people had amazing things to say. And, so that's my personal celebration. Was being in print, even though it's about John and how awesome he is. So,
thanks, Nancy. Sean, and then Vasa.
Okay, so I will quickly ditto what Michelle said because James also has Mr. Malev and also loves him and is having a great 5th grade year. So. Totally agree with you, Michelle. And then I will also, I will say the same celebration that I did for governance, which is firefighters and all of the hard work that they are putting in and around our state, not just our state, and especially in and around our neighborhood in the very recent days, and just thank them very much.
Just as a quick aside, watching, is it called Northlake now? Right? Northlake go up, and the fact that they had the tractors on site to do the burn line, to do the fire lines, that teamwork, that's Natomas, right? The different pieces coming together to protect our community, I just thought was awesome. Sorry to cut in there. It hit me that there was so much to that. Vasa, and then Amy, Steve, if you want to play, no big deal either way, but just wanted to give you a heads up. So Vasa.
While you guys went around, 50 celebrations went through my head, but one is I had the honor of teaching Sarah Vasquez, and I remember in one elective I was teaching public speaking, debate, and spoken word, and she wrote this poem and stood up and performed it, I believe there was waterfalls, unicorns, and maybe even a rainbow. And I said, this girl was like so just like pure and honest and like true to herself. And I just remembered that so vividly. And I wanted to share that and among many other moments with her. But I really want to celebrate tonight, specifically Jen Kaya'u. She stepped into a really big role this year, obviously filling baton shoes. Not that she doesn't have a ton of experience herself, but she's just really stepped up, worked diligently, communicating, working with teachers that are probably, I don't know who would text message her at 6 a.m., but they might be doing that or emailing her or working with schedules. And she's really crushing it and leading well during this really hard time. So just big shout out to Jen Kaya'u.
That's a great celebration. Thank you.
Steve or Amy, if you want to, you don't have to.
I will celebrate that everything is different this year for everybody. I'm no different. And one of the really huge components of my job is missing right now, which is the kids. And I live at home with 4 dogs and 2 cats. I'm that person. And being alone during all of this is really hard. And I realized probably 3 weeks into school that I needed to see my kids. And so Stacy very kindly set up rotations for me. And every single morning, I start my morning with 3 or 4 different classroom visits. And I play hot seat, and they ask me all kinds of hilarious questions and really deep questions, which is fun. But it's just, it's keeping me connected and grounded to the kids and keeping me focused on doing the best that I can for them in this really weird time. So I am grateful for COVID. I don't know, somehow, maybe.
You're finding the bright side, Amy, which everybody should do as often as possible.
There we go. That's it. Hashtag silver lining.
You gotta find them, because yeah. Steve unmuted, so Steve.
Yep, unmuted, and here I am. I think I will ditto a little bit Sean's earlier celebration on first responders and those who really jumped in yesterday to protect parts of Natomas. So very appreciative for them. And then thanks also to Nancy to sharing the app that let us kind of hear what was going on in real time. And also just to celebrate really the coffee talk. I don't know if everyone jumped on that, but it was an awesome little coffee talk. Amber's on it, Sherry Cantor is on it. Mr. Eichley popped in and shared a couple of best practices. Ms. Batten popped in a little bit, so it was a great little jam session. If you didn't pop on, I'd encourage you to check it out next time around.
Thanks, Steve. That brings us to board comments on items not related to the agenda. I actually have one, and it's going to be really hard for teachers, but for those who are out there listening, all our various counties are desperate for poll workers for November's election. So if you have the time and are interested, there are a number of links available on every county's website to sign up and to be involved. And I know as legal counsel for elections, they would really appreciate any additional volunteers. It's going to take many more than we have in the past, but I know that California can pull this off as long as we have the great people in this community to help support it. So I just wanted to make that call out for potential volunteers tonight. Were there any other board comments? Seeing none, that takes us to public comment. And John, you said we have one, so I will turn it over to you.
That is correct. And if anybody's out there watching live on YouTube and would like to make a public comment, you can email admin@Westlake Charter. I have the inbox open right now, so if you make a comment now, you will make it in on time. I've got 2 comments inside the inbox right now. Let me open them each up in order of appearance. It's 6 to do. Let's see. Loading. There we go. Public comment for school board meeting. Hopefully more families are, quote, attending tonight's meeting because they, like me, are excited to see Mrs. Batten and hear whatever news she can share about the Westlake High School that is scheduled to open next year for our current 8th graders. This virtual platform has made attendance at school board meetings much more convenient and accessible. With that, the availability of meeting documents online for review is a great resource for families who want to understand the amount of work and data that goes into planning and decision making at Westlake Charter School. Kudos to whomever helped complete the enthralling 24-page learning, continuity, and attendance plan. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. So that was a comment from Mrs. Krista Johnson. So thank you, Mrs. Johnson, for your comment. And big kudos to all of those who participated in the new LCAP, which isn't the old LCAP, it's the new LCAP, Learning Continuity Attendance Plan. Big shout out to Steve Corbink, who really led that work. So I'd like to give him a little shout out for that. Next public comment is September 10th board meeting public comment. It says, hello, just a quick shout out to board president Hope Golick. I think she is doing an amazing job. That's not from Jed Wallace. It's from Warcraft Han, and that's the entirety of the comment, but it is received, and I concur. I think, Hope, you're doing a great job. And that is all the board comments we have.
Thank you, John. That brings us to our reports for the evening, and to Amber and our wave report.
Hi. So last week we've had a wave meeting and we've had a coffee talk. Both went really well. The wave meeting a week ago tonight, there was lots of parents that came on, a lot of parents that had never been to a meeting before, which was really fun, and it was our first virtual meeting. So there was a lot of great ideas for fundraising, community events. So it was really kind of a brainstorming session of what could we do and what do we want to do. So we came up with a lot of ideas, and we're really just going to prioritize those and try to make some of them slowly happen. And then, so we're also looking for some volunteers. Like, we do want to bring the the fireworks booth back for fundraising. So we're looking for a team for that. We're looking for someone to go out and get corporate donations, because, you know, some, even Rayleigh's will give you like $25 here and there. So we just want somebody to go out and just ask for donations everywhere they can. And so we can start getting some donations. And if we want to do like a virtual, you know, fall festival basket thing, then we actually have items to do. And then, so anyway, we're looking for a few little roles to fill. And then one of those as well is like the dinner night outs. It's a little different. Like, we're not really going and eating out, but we are picking up and grabbing. So the first one is for Chipotle. It's the 29th of this month, and it'll be from 4 to 8 p.m. on Truxell. So if you want to grab dinner that night, and for the first time ever, they are letting you order online with a code, which just thrills me because you don't have to wait in line. They used to make you wait in line. So like Steve said, the coffee talk was really fun. There was a lot of great information. It was exciting to have those guest speakers come in and give some helpful information. And then everybody, of course, wants to hear about the high school, which is very exciting. And then just on a kind of parent side, I've received a lot of great feedback lately. It's been great feedback just about distance learning as a whole. Really great feedback about BASE. People are really loving the BASE program. They feel safe. They feel like their kids are getting a lot out of it. So it's just been, you know, there's been a lot of great feedback about that. And then in particular, I think a lot of the concern before we started was the K-2 kids, about how they were going to do. And then as we're now, 4 weeks in, that's totally shifted. People are like, oh, my kid is engaged and they're learning and they've grown a ton. And so it's just really awesome. And I mean, just kudos to our teachers and all of our staff and our BASE team. So there's just great feedback out there, and keep on doing it. We're doing a good job. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Husted.
Thanks, Amber. That brings us to our Charter Impact Committee report, and I believe Voss is doing that tonight.
Yes, I have the honor of filling in for Shannon this month. For big shoes to fill, but it's been really exciting at Impact Committee. The Impact Committee last met on August 27th, and it was super engaging and productive. So much so that we went 30 minutes over because we're just very excited about the work that's going on. All committee members were present except for our esteemed president. As Shannon noted last meeting, as a result of COVID-19, we have put our teacher retention work on hold. And as a result, the last 2 months have allowed us to explore our role as the impact committee in the areas of social justice and improved equity for our community. So Westlake Charter notably has set goals in our strategic plan as defining global citizenship as someone who embraces equity, diversity, inclusion, and cultural competence. However, the death of George Floyd and our school's subsequent letter to the community has influenced the impact committee to shift its focus as well. And our committee is committed to the framework that Mr. Ike laid out to the staff, which was part of the letter and includes reflection, action, and transformation. And so as a result, we spent the last month both studying individually and reading social justice-oriented texts, and also collectively reading Muhammad Khalifa's article, Culturally Responsive School Leadership. And that provides a meta-analysis or a summary of the literature on culturally responsive leadership and a framework that might act as a tool for future work in this area, which was very insightful. We spent a big portion of the meeting reflecting on our readings and then learning from one another's experiences and perspectives, and which is right in line with our goal, which is to reflect on our own knowledge and skills, our own attitudes, our own beliefs about power and privilege. And during that reflection process, we planned for a path to emerge and provide us with more strategic goals to help support the work that's happening at Westlake Charter School and in the community. Mr. Ike, did you want to add anything?
No, we had a very healthy conversation and governance about this as well, and I think you summarized it incredibly well, Vasa. Thank you. Well said. It was an engaging meeting, and it could have gone on for another 3 hours. I mean, I think we can't wait for the next meeting, so stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah, so thank you for your time, and that's it.
Thanks, Vasa. Nancy, do you want? I'm echoing again. I'm sorry. Nancy, do you want to? We didn't meet, but the next meeting is on the 21st.
21st. Mm-hmm.
21st. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Just in case anyone wants to
we
attend.
haven't met for. Yes, so we haven't met as a team in the last 2 months, primarily because there's literally just been so much going on in terms of where, gearing up for school. And I think our last meeting was like maybe 2 days before school started. So we decided to postpone. So our intention for the 21st meeting is to regroup. As you can imagine, the team itself has a little bit of working through what our goals, what realistic goals we can set as a team. I think right now, just the economic climate with COVID has just been so devastating. We need to think about how we approach development going forward because of that, taking into consideration. So we all took a little bit of a step back, but I anticipate that on our 21st meeting, we'll be able to gather and really kind of brainstorm. We've been really good about setting up what our goals were for 1, 3, and 5 years. I think we're going to need to revisit that 1, 3, 5 year plan and figure out what our next steps are. So I anticipate, like I said, our meeting to be on the 21st to be more of a brainstorming session, as well as developing goals for the team.
Perfect. Thanks, Nancy. Sean in finance.
Okay, so when finance met, we approved our goals for this year, which we had discussed at the previous meeting. We got our regular monthly financial update from Steve, and we started our annual cycle of certificated compensation review. That's finance.
Perfect. Thanks, Sean. Like I mentioned before, governance met earlier tonight. We reviewed the 2020-2021 goals for the governance committee, the board, and the executive director. Michelle Gibbons and I and John are going to get together to work on some language to address the board's drive to be aware of the inequities that are currently facing the world and how best to include those in our goals moving forward in the next year. Is there a better way of describing that, John or Michelle? Is that okay? That's okay. Perfect. With that leads us into the executive director report.
Well, good evening, everybody. I do have a few slides, as always. I'm going to start with a little timer to make sure I acknowledge that I have quite a few updates I want to give you tonight, but I do want everyone who's viewing at home to stay buckled up, because at the end of my report, Mrs. Batten will be coming on to do the high school report at some point here. She's very excited. She's on the same slide deck. So I'll try and get off stage quick so we can get to the main show tonight. Let me see if I can get my slides to load up here. There we go. I'm going to present. I'll start with some celebrations. I'll go through some strategic actions and then some updates. Couple of the pieces tonight that I want to cover, I love feedback on if you have questions on them, but I want to make sure that, from the first day of school, which was our last board meeting, to today, it's only been a month, but it feels like it's been a year. I mean, so much has transpired. So I just want to make sure you're up to date on county updates and things like that tonight. So I will get started, as I do, with celebrations. Obviously, the first day of school and all of our families putting pictures out there and really launching the first day of school with all the energy that every first day of school has. I just like to celebrate, even though we're in distance learning, our community has rallied around this school year as if it were any other school year. So it's so great to see our families plugged in. The way our staff are using technology is, I think, a little cut above maybe any other school that I see out there rocking. Our teachers are utilizing what we call in the Chromebook Coliseum to create breakout rooms in a little different way than the typical Zoom breakout room. And this takes a little extra innovation, a little extra care, and a little extra know-how. But our teachers are out there innovating, and those who don't yet have those skills are leaning on each other to acquire them. And I'm telling you, I could not be more proud of this work, because I think it really reflects the type of learning that we believe in, right? That learning isn't a sit and get, that it's a social construct where we have to talk to our peers. And so there's some really great work happening there, and it couldn't happen without this courage on behalf of our staff to try new things and be willing to take a leap of faith and try something new. So great job to our staff. Our virtual back to school night was a fabulous celebration. I mean, I really got an opportunity to watch our staff shine, but more importantly, I got an opportunity to check the temperature of our community. This could have been this moment where we launched these virtual back to school nights and people came with a laundry list of questions and I don't understand this and why are you doing that and how come we couldn't do it this way? And virtually at the end of every presentation, teachers would say, "Are there any questions?" And the families more or less said, "No, it seems to be going pretty well." And that to me was just an absolute shot of confidence and speaks to the quality of our staff. Our staff are being clear about communications, clear about being available, being being there for our parents and our students, and it really spoke on that night to the work that they're doing. This is a really great little celebration. If you haven't caught this in the Westlake Weekly, I'm just going to shout her out. Estefania Garcia, who is a Westlake Charter Explorer. She promoted from our Pebblewood campus. She's a senior in high school now at Natomas High School, home of the Nighthawks. Give a little, it's a great day to be a Nighthawk. Estefania is a former explorer or a lifelong explorer, currently a Nighthawk, and she has just been sworn in as the Natomas Unified School District student board member for the 2020-2021 school year. So it's the first time we've ever had a Westlake charter student become that student board member position, and we're very proud of her. She's a wonderful young lady, and I can't wait to go to a board meeting with NUSD and get a chance to see one of our explorers sitting up there at the diocese. There we go. And then Amber Houston and I always celebrate this little hashtag. I don't know what it is, but I just love Spirit Day on campus, and to have it continue off campus during distance learning has been a real joy. If I'm ever feeling down, I can just click on the hashtag WCS Spirit Friday, and to see all of our kids dressing up and doing what we do on Fridays, it's just wonderful. So little celebrations there. The 3 strategic actions that I'd like to dive into tonight. I want to update you on a language translation feature that we built in. I want to talk about reflection, action, and transformation. That's the protocol to discuss racial inequities. And then I want to really give you a deep dive into our strategic action around extending level 1 distance learning out to our next checkpoint, which is October 19th. This is a bit of a celebration, but it is that Steve Corbin worked hard in the background with our web designer to make sure that we can install a language translator into our website. Now, again, if we had more than 15% of any singular second language, this would be really compelling and important, but we don't. But we said, well, we don't have to. That's the threshold set by the state. Just because we haven't crossed that threshold doesn't mean we shouldn't provide this service. And we thought, gosh, during this time, during COVID-19, during distance learning, when there's so much new information, this translation may be more important than ever. And so our families can go right to the website, use the drop-down menu, select a language, and then it translates the Twitter feed that's right there embedded. It translates the calendar, upcoming dates, so families know what's happening, and it translates the entire Westlake Weekly feed, both the school feed and the Wave Weekly. So we're really reaching out, making sure that more families have access through this effort, and we just want to celebrate at the board level, and I want to give a big shout out to Steve for doing that work in the background. The next strategic action is around this reflection, action, transformation framework that we're all working on. What you'll see on the screen is the letter that you as a board and our staff approved and sent out to our community regarding our intention to respond during this time of racial inequities and racial injustice. As a staff, we said, hey, this work is incredibly important. And the last 3 verbs on this letter are reflection, action, and transformation. And in that order, we've decided that through the work of the Impact Committee and the work of a leadership team that's already launched here at the school, this is the work we intend to do publicly to transform some of the work at our school. So we do have a leadership team that is launched. Within that leadership team, they've already launched 3 ad hoc committees that are reaching out in different ways to partners to start to create this work and bring it to fruition at the staff level. Really the idea first is to promote reflection regarding racial inequities that will lead to action and transformation of both policy and practice. So we, being the board, really that policy piece is so important to us as a board. And so I know when we talk about board goals, we're going to talk about this as something that we really need to focus on. But each one of us is a practitioner in education, whether you're the executive director or a classroom teacher or the library and media tech. Each one of us are really policy authors at our own local level, and our practices in our own classroom or here at the school have to be part of this process because each of us are policy writers and practitioners who implement policy. So this work is going to be really global across the entire staff, and I really hope the board is able to jump in feet first and get involved in this work with us as well. One of the big pieces is that our ad hoc committees are developing partnerships not only with practitioners, other schools who've already engaged in some of this work, facilitators who can help jump in and help lead this work, but also within our local community, because we've acknowledged as a staff that we are not reflective of our community ethnically, racially, linguistically, socioeconomically. The diversity of our amazing and beautiful community is not represented amongst the people on that leadership team. So already we've said we need to reach out beyond ourselves and bring in the diversity required to really have this reflective process. So we're engaged and we're excited about this work, but I wanted the board to know that since that letter was issued by this board, this work is launched and is getting a full head of steam. This next piece is about extending level 1 distance learning. As you'll recall, in our previous Westlake Weekly, we told our families about a month and a half ago that we would definitely have distance learning at least until September 11th. That'll be our first checkpoint, and we'll let you know what the next checkpoint is going to be. In the Westlake Weekly this weekend, we're acknowledging or letting our families know that October 19th will be the next checkpoint. I'm going to explain why. We are also telling our families that we will communicate with them no later than October 11th regarding our intentions on that next checkpoint. So the rationale for this next checkpoint is based on the state blueprint for a safer economy. That's our county watch list produced by the state of California and the Sacramento County Public Health data. I'm going to walk through some of that right now so that we're all on the same page. Then if you have any questions, we can certainly entertain those. I've had quite a few along the way myself. So this county watch list, or the blueprint for a safer economy, is based on two key metrics. The first one being the average number of new COVID cases per day per 100,000 citizens within our county, or people within our county. And the second is the positivity rate, trying to keep below an 8% positivity rate. So the county risk levels indicated on the chart that you see on the right there, the 4 risk levels are color-coded. There's the widespread, and that is if you have more than 7 cases per 100,000 within your community per day on average for a 14-day average. And that's a purple level because color-coded. The red level is substantial. The yellow level, or the orange level, is moderate, and the yellow level is minimal. And we're going to talk about when we can reopen school and how that would come to fruition. Sacramento, as you're going to acknowledge here on this chart, is in the widespread category. In our county, it being in widespread because we have more than, on average, 7 cases per day. Being in purple, we cannot reopen schools. Once we get through the process out of purple and into red for a particular duration of time, then we would be allowed, in collaboration with county public health, to talk about reopening schools, and I'll talk about that now. So just want to be clear about where the data comes from and how it all looks. So here's the example. This is a screenshot from a week ago, but at this point, Sacramento County had 9.3 cases, new cases per day on average per 100,000, which would put us in the widespread category. So I want to show you how we're tracking this data, because there's several websites that if you to have to click around each day to know where we are and what trajectory we're on. So what Westlake has done is we go every day now to this website, which is the Sacramento County Public Health epidemiological dashboard. And each one of those yellow bars right there indicates a singular day. So like on this day, there were 180 new cases in Sacramento on that day. So I'm going to kind of show you how we're tracking this. So we go to the dashboard. Then we plug the data from the dashboard into a little simple equation that we've developed on a spreadsheet. It works like this. So the population of Sacramento is roughly 1.5 million for the county. So that is 15 sets of 100,000. So we know that you can't have more than 7 cases per 100,000. So all we need to do is say 7 times 15 is 105. So now we know if we're at 105 cases on a given day, we've kind of broken that widespread threshold, and we're tracking that data over here on this little spreadsheet dashboard that we've created. I'm going to show you a little close-up version of that right now. I don't know if you can see that a little better or not, but you can see since the very first day of school, that's August 12th, we got all the data tracked, and you can see this little chart here that says, hey, we had more cases, less cases, more cases, less cases. But you can see that little light blue line there. That's a trend line. And that trend line shows that since the first day of school, it's slightly sloping down and getting better, which is really good news. Now, we all know we just had Labor Day, and we'll see what happens. But as of right now, the trend line is moving in the right direction. That's good news. But let's take a look at how it all plays out as we track it on our dashboard. So, when the counties reached less than 105 new cases in any singular day, and you can see those days indicated in a separate color here, we just acknowledge that. When we've done that for 3 consecutive weeks, so once we get below 105 every single day for 21 days, once that happens, Sacramento County can move from purple down to red. Now, Once we're in red and we consistently stay in red, meaning under 63, once we stay, or under 105, above 63, sorry. Once you stay under 105 for a full another 2 weeks in red, then the county public health office will indicate, okay, we may be able to start reopening schools. And so I just want to re-articulate that. It's 3 full weeks or 21 days below 105 per day. That'll get you from purple to red. Then another 2 weeks while on red without spiking above 105. That's 5 total weeks below 105, at which point we could work with their county public health to consider reopening. So if you look at September 5th on this chart here, which is the last piece of data we have because the data is always a couple day lag, we were at 78. So I'm sure you have more data info than I do, but we were at 7.
Well, I do think, if I can chime in real fast. So as of the evening of September 7th and reported on September the 8th, counties are no longer receiving or receiving delayed data. So part of the reason why you are not able to go much past the 5th at this point is because no one can, because we're not getting that data from the state. And so I just wanted to share that real fast. So if families started going to check on this same data now that they understand how it works, it may not be there for them for a little bit of time. I know that everyone's working hard to fix this problem, but it's making it very, very hard coming off Labor Day to track. We also are starting to see longer lag times in getting test results back. And depending on what day that they're assigned to, in terms of when their symptoms started, if they had symptoms, these numbers are just a little subject to change right now. I know, and your science, your data behind this is amazing, and so I totally appreciate it. It is not that at all. I just wanted to caveat a little if people started doing their own research.
Sure. So what I'm trying to do is create a clear pathway to what it might look like to get to the point where the county says, hey, it's time to start considering reopening. Because as I poke around, I can't find anywhere that creates a clear pathway. So we decided at Westlake, we would document the data as it becomes available. And you're right, Hope, as some of the data changes, we go back in the spreadsheet and change the data. I wanted our board to understand the pathway, that if on September 5th, we were at 78 new cases, that would be below 105, which means we would be below 7 cases per 100,000, which means that theoretically could be the first day. And if we had 20 more days in a row of sub 105, we could end up in red. And then 2 more weeks on the red, that's 5 weeks, which then justifies, oh, well, that explains why our next checkpoint isn't until October 19th. Now, I'm not in charge of who produces the data. So yeah, I agree, Hope. It's messy out there. And I tell you what, it shouldn't be this difficult to create this data. It really shouldn't. But this is the tracking work we're doing. Other than
it's amazing. I want to celebrate. I mean, this is the best breakdown I've seen of how this works. And I go to many meetings on this subject all the time. So I want to celebrate 100% the work you've done on this. And it really, my comment wasn't about that, right? It was just about the fact that I cannot believe all the moving parts that schools are having to deal with in trying to make this decision. And it's just so hard, and that's really all I was trying to acknowledge.
I totally, 100%. I get where you're coming from. It is quite frustrating from our perspective to look toward the data and say, oh, is this real? Is it not real? Is it coming? Is it delayed? So I hope they get it fixed and they keep it coming. Are there any questions on this process? Anyone, Mrs. Patel?
I actually just wanted to acknowledge what I did and help the board if this helps them. We usually see these charts on a 90-inch screen that's massive in the room, and they're so tiny. And I realized I did something that our teachers know, but maybe it would be helpful for the board. So if you needed this bigger, if you hover over I hope it's okay to share, John. If you hover over John's presentation, there's looks like a push pin. You can't see all of your beautiful faces anymore when you do this, though, guys. But it makes it really big. You click the push pin, and then you go up to the top, and it looks like a waffle that's next to your face in the upper right-hand corner, and it takes off your grid view, and it makes the presentation your screen size. So if you're trying to see these tiny charts like me.
And I'll do you one better as a good segue. The next slide says, I've taken this spreadsheet, I've made it available to the public if anybody wants it, and it is on your board website right here. So go to your board website on the homepage, and right there where that red box, it says like SAC COVID tracker. I just wanted you to have that availability so that you could, just like Patel said, like make it big, search. If you have thoughts, questions, concerns, or feedback to make it better, my goodness, please, we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, thanks, Ashley. Yeah, it is pretty small on the screen. Any other questions, thoughts, or concerns about the process or anything I can help clarify for you? Okay, I hope it's helpful. For me, it was actually helpful just to dig in and really make sure we understood the path that we are on. Okay, the updates tonight are lengthy. I know I'm already 19 minutes in, so I'm going to try and push through them. We want to talk about the Sacramento County Public Health orders that have come out, a facility use agreement update, some legislative updates. I promised you I'd bring you back some data on BASE and how that's going. I know Jed talked about that in governance as well. A little celebration to talk about Silicon Schools, our COVID-19 response plan that you approved in March. So I can give you a quick update, and an attendance update, which is also going to be a bit of a celebration. This one's kind of important for you to understand, board, because I need you to understand some of the work that we're doing during this COVID era. Now, schools are closed. Now, you are a board member here in Sacramento. There are board members up in Placer. They're living under a different reality. They're insubstantial. They're in the red zone, so their schools are opening. But we are closed. Having said that, as of August 20th, the Sacramento County Public Health orders have allowed schools in Sacramento to facilitate one-on-one testing for English language learners, for special education, and to facilitate one-on-one emergency mental health counseling. So I want you to know that we've already had over 20 students in a one-on-one, very safe scenario come onto campus and receive one-on-one testing, mostly our English language learner students. However, we're already facilitating some potential one-on-one testing for students with disabilities. So just really important that the county's allowed us to do that we've done it very slowly and taking our steps carefully to make sure that we're doing this in a safe manner. That work has started just in the last week or two. However, on the 25th of August, the California Public Health Department said, hey, you can now start to serve small, stable cohorts of students. At the time, though, that was in conflict with our county order, so we were like, well, we can't do that, California. 3 days later, the Sacramento County Public Health Office followed the state's order and said, okay, schools, you can bring on small cohorts of students for a very particular purpose of offering targeted support in the following ways, and I'll unpack that for you just quickly here. Number one, the details on this targeted work is important. It is important to note, number one, schools are still closed. The reason I say that is because some people initially jumped to the idea that, if I could bring on a cohort of 14 kids and my class sizes are only 20, then I could bring in 10 kids on Monday and 10 kids on Tuesday and call them small cohorts, and that is totally against what this order is trying to allow us to do. So we are not reopening schools through this order. We are offering targeted support. The second piece is that we talked to Superintendent Gordon at the Sacramento County Office of Education and said, hey, county schools, we do not recommend that you start this small cohort work yet, because the county has to provide no-cost COVID testing to all of our staff to prepare ourselves to start doing this type of work. And we just received word from the Sacramento County office yesterday, I believe yesterday, the day before, that they're on track to have this up and running, we think, by September 14th. So that's really good news. The second piece is the Sacramento County office or Sacramento County Public Health needs to provide a team of nurses who can assist with COVID tracing. Should there be any type of outbreak within a stable cohort, they'll be able to contact all the people whom have been in contact with one another. And again, that is on pace for roughly September 14th. Now, the idea is that these are small, stable cohorts of no more than 14 to 2, 14 children, 2 adults. Now, at the state level, as of yesterday, 2 days ago, they have increased it from 14 to 16, but that has not increased at the county level yet. So if you hear the number 16 out there, know that that's a state order and has not trickled down to the county order yet. So you could theoretically, as a school, bring on up to 14 students and have a teacher and an instructional aide, or a teacher and an educational specialist. Why would you do that? Who would you bring on, and why would you do that? What would it service? Well, think of all our students who do like one-on-one services through our speech therapy, occupational therapy, many of the interventions that we do for our students with moderate to severe disabilities. This is a real gift for us to be able to bring in some of our most at-risk students for sure. Those are definitely allowed under this order, but also your highest need students, and you as a school get to target. What does that mean, highest need? Who are our highest needs students? And obviously with Westlake's, very robust MTSS process and the way that we utilize, real-time data, we're able to target who are the students who are suffering from the largest amount of learning loss or have the least opportunity to access real high-level instruction. And so we could bring in those students not to supplant instruction. So it's not like we're using BASE. BASE is, hey, come to BASE and do distance learning from BASE. It's not that. It is targeted support. Hey, we recognize this group of students has this type of learning loss around this particular topic or concept. It could be reading, it could be mathematics. So it would be targeted groups based on need, based on the targeted support that would be offered. And then the last piece there is that, again, we cannot rotate groups to basically wink, wink, reopen school. I'll bring in 10 kids today and then 10 kids tomorrow, and now Mrs. Patel has seen all 20 of her kids. That is not the intention of these orders. And so I give this to you, board, so that you understand when you hear people starting to say, oh, my kid got to go to school today, that you understand school is not open, but we will be utilizing these protocols and procedures to service our most at-risk students in the coming weeks. Are there any questions on that? Cool. All right, thanks, team. I don't mean to overtalk it. I'll keep going. Certainly, I'm available if anybody has questions, thoughts, or concerns about this going forward. Here's some fun updates. We are working on our facilities use agreement. You've heard me talk about this a lot. We are currently working with the Natomas Unified School District on this. Thanks to Steve Korvink. A big shout out for his teamwork. We crafted an initial facilities use agreement. We redlined the old agreement, and we built, under the tutelage of Hope Golick, about 112 whereases. Right, those recitals. I love writing, whereas we've agreed in the past to this, and whereas we're building a high school, whereas it's going to be amazing. We built out the FUA, we've submitted it to the Natomas Unified School District, and now we're working on it. A few of the whereases are like, hey, obviously our Maverick campus is for our K-8. We're looking for a short-term solution for our high school, but in our FUA, we'd like to have a long-term solution for our high school as well in writing, just as we had in previous FUAs that led to the campus that we're at today. We currently have a written agreement with the Natomas Unified School District to finish this work by October 15th. It was going to be finished up by September 15th, but to be totally honest, I think the work of launching the district, school year and distance learning has been very challenging. So we, with grace, we said, my goodness, please, yes. As long as we have an agreement on what we're trying to accomplish, take another month, and we'll be back for the next board meeting and hopefully have an agreement for you to sign. Stop me if you have questions, thoughts, concerns. I want to give you a little feedback on the BASE learning camps. It is going incredibly well. We are very proud of the work that's happening out there. So many of our students are being served so well. We have streamlined the process, so it's a one-click process. You don't have to divulge too much information because every single person that clicks in gets a direct contact from our director, and we dive right into, hey, how can we connect you to services? It's not just BASE, but what else might you need? And if it's about a scholarship, let's talk about it right now to make sure you're being served. Not a single family's been turned away due to financial need. Every single person that's reached out has been connected and communicated with regarding their needs for that. So since we've launched, we've had roughly 100 families who have sought some form of support through BASE, which we love. The goal is to ensure really, BASE is really morphed, right? It used to be before and after school, and really it's now, its mission is to ensure that every child has a safe place to be during distance learning. Now, we originally thought, hey, it is possible that we're going to need to expand BASE to offer more services to more families. We are still averaging about 33 unique students per week. Now, that's important because if you take up a seat just on Monday, we hold that seat for you all week long because we want that base to be a stable cohort. So even though it says 33 students, on Tuesday, you might only have 16 students here. On another day, you might have all 33. So having said that, we're serving roughly 33 students per week, and about 20 of those students are staff students. So just kind of putting that out there. Grade level groupings are averaging, 3 to 5 students per group, kindergarten through. And we're below capacity. I mean, our capacity is 12 students per grade level. Per group. Now every Westlake Weekly, every podcast, every time we get in front of our community, we're like, please don't be shy. Reach out to us. Scholarships available. Let us know. So I feel like we're communicating as best we can, trying to get our folks in, and this is the need we've seen. Now, we just said we're pushing out distance learning for another checkpoint till October 19th. Maybe some people will be like, oh my goodness, I went as long as I could. This is my breaking point. So maybe we'll see numbers tick up and maybe we won't, but we've last 2 weeks anyway, very strong, right at almost the exact same number. I know that was a topic for us. Any thoughts, questions or concerns on that topic? Cool. It's available, and we like to see our families served by it. Legislative updates. We had a couple that we were going to scratch on, but I thought the most important one to really stick to, since we have such a long set of slides tonight, was the budget trailer bill. We have talked about whether or not the trailer bill was going to fund classroom-based charter growth, and luckily it did get passed. So classroom-based charters like Westlake Charter School will be funded for growth. We do have growth here at Westlake Charter School this year because 8th grade finally expanded to that 4th classroom. So we will see growth for those 28 students in 8th grade. We've decided still not to move on the class size increases kindergarten through 3rd grade. However, we did talk at this board about, well, what would it look like if we did siblings only? And so I wanted to give you a little feedback on that. There are still 20 students on the sibling list. However, one of the grade levels has 11 siblings. And so if you brought on all siblings, there would be one grade level that would be somewhat, more impacted than others. And so we just brought that back for the board to hear. If we were going to do any class size increases at this point, we would want to do it before October break. As we look at our current budget and our current status and the current status of the impact of base, and looking at the base numbers that we're running, we don't see the need to bring on more students just for the purpose of financial growth. And so we feel comfortable staying where we are at this point. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns on that piece? No? Okay.
Yes, I'm just more worried long term, John. And I don't necessarily think these decisions are ones that only affect this coming year. We've talked about things rippling through. We've actually talked about that being something of a negative. Once you've committed and you've put a larger class size in, well, you're going to have a bubble for a very long time. I don't see ways out for the state to get out of this financial problem.
Yeah,
we are going to experience them no doubt. You've already assured me that if there's anything from an equity standpoint, we will not be impeded by budget. But I want to just put it out there. We're making a decision here that will have multiple years of impact for us. And I would just think about going into this next year's budgeting frame with this is probably a 5-year challenge, maybe 10, who knows? What are the foundational things that we need to do to keep ourselves as strong as we possibly can be financially? And really being proactive about that is, something I anticipate pushing even harder on this spring.
It's good, and I love it in the spring. And I honestly think if we pulled this lever 45 days ago, before we knew that the legislative update was going to come through and fund it, and we pulled it before the school year launched, before the teachers made their first rosters, before the first distance learning Google Meet had launched, it would have been a different decision. But I here with you tonight really feel like it's my obligation to represent our teaching staff who have, they have teacher representatives on this board, but I really feel like I have to stand here tonight and look you in the eye and say, I don't think that the $277,000 of income would be worth what I'm seeing out there from our teachers right now as another thing that they would have to stretch. Now, I want more kids here, and I'm okay with increasing class sizes because I think every kid that comes here, it's a gift to this place and a gift to their family. But we didn't pull this lever, and now it's hard to pull it because these teachers are working. I've been here 7 years. And this is a hardworking group of people. I've never seen them work harder, and I've never seen them more fragile. And I'm telling you right now, you would have to push me pretty hard to put more on their plate in this time. And so I agree, Jed, as we get to the spring and look toward the future and the financial realities of California, let's talk about class size increases and give these teachers the time to prepare for that. But boy, doing it mid-year at this point, it worries me. I feel like I'm a type of person that keeps my finger on the pulse of what's really going on around here. And while there's just a ton of celebrations and so much good to celebrate, the reality is our staff, they're working pretty hard. And I wouldn't want to pull this lever without a real direct causal reason. Like, because of equity, we have to do this. And I look at the equity work we're doing, I think we can afford to do it. I could be wrong, and I'll stand on my wrong decision going forward if that's what has to happen. But I just feel like knowing where our staff are today, it's important for me to at least say that out loud.
Understood. We're in a fantasy land. We are in a fiction land about the state budget. We have just tens of billions of dollars that they are pretending is there that is not there, and there will be budgets that come up that will be forced to reconcile this, right? And so, so just getting ourselves oriented as an organization to be as strong and prudent as we possibly can to protect all of our incredible staff, and obviously all the other things that we're trying to do from a program standpoint. I think it's just something we got to gird ourselves for in the coming spring.
100%. Yeah, thank you. It's a good lead. Speaking of financial wins and losses, Silicon Schools, as you know, our board approved our resolution in August. The executive team continued to work with Silicon Schools on the language of the agreement. We have signed and finalized the agreement with Silicon Schools, and as of just this week, Silicon Schools has just transferred $200,000 into our 5-Star Bank account, and so that is the first installment of 4 potential installments that will yield $800,000 of grant money directly to Westlake Charter School as we look to launch our high school. So, very, very excited about this opportunity. Very thankful for the work done by Steve Corvey, the connection work by Jed Wallace, and everybody who's involved in it. So, really good piece right here, and that's the update. We are now officially We are officially the recipients of $200,000 from Silicon Schools. Yeah, it's a big celebration. So in March 12th, board meeting, the board authorized the executive director to make expenditures appropriate to facilitate distance learning. There was a promise in that board meeting, and it said that the executive director would report back if any expenditures exceeded my typical expenditure limit. And so I have 2 to report for this fall. We tried to get out ahead of purchasing 150 new Chromebooks for $40,000. Just because we are running a little thin. We've issued out nearly 500 Chromebooks, and we're kind of running to the end of our stock. So we're looking at the backup in Chromebook purchasing timelines. So we went ahead and made that expenditure. And we also just want to be clear with the board that we've engaged in purchasing Google Voice for our staff to the tune of about $1,500 a month. And we expect that to more or less be an ongoing purchase, through at least through the end of the year. And so having said that, I look at that and say, well, it doesn't technically exceed, but knowing that it's a full year purchased, and I thought I'd go ahead and report that to the board. So per our March 12th agreement, I want to let you know of a couple expenditures that have been made and the impact on the budget. Steve obviously it looks at that and fits it right into where we are. And then an attendance update. The board had asked for me to bring back an attendance update. So typically we base our budget on 97%. However, the governor last year, froze our ADA based on last year's ADA, which was a 96.4 right there at the end of February. So that's what our ADA would be based on for this year. Our current attendance, however, after 1 month of level 1 distance learning, I thought this was a real celebration, is 98.6%. Really strong attendance in distance learning. Now, we all walked into the beginning of the school year thinking, oh goodness, what happens if kids don't have to come to school? Will they come to school? And clearly our teachers are doing something well because we have an incredibly strong attendance rate. So it's a big celebration for our staff. It's job well done. So there's a little update on attendance. Ms. Gibbons?
I was just curious, what is our normal attendance rate for this time of year?
Yeah, no, we usually hover around 97%. It's broken into two categories of the K-5 versus the 6-8. One typically outperforms the other, but we hover around 97% all year long. If you'd like me to bring back an exact number next month, I'd be super glad to do it.
Nope, I think that's fine. I just wanted to compare it. That's a phenomenal number, so great job.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I should pull the exact number, but I would venture to say that this is better than we were at this time last year. In fact, I'm going to make that note because I would like to prove that. I was very surprised. When I saw 98.6, I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever seen 98.6. Anyway, great celebration. Thank you for that.
So, we're not seeing any kind of effect at kindergarten. I don't know if you saw the news about LA Unified. They have 6,000 missing kindergartners, just didn't show up to school. And then I've been having conversations with others across the country, and it seems like there is this tendency for people, if they have the option, well, maybe I'll have my child start kindergarten a year later or something like that.
Some people redshirting. Well, a couple things on that. Number one, kindergarten always has the lowest attendance. They're the most wonderful teachers in the world because one's on the screen right now. But the kindergarten always has the toughest attendance, for one. And the red shirt factor that is happening at LA Unified is not a factor here because we are fully enrolled and attendance is strong. However, I bet I could go into the kinder attendance and find that it may be a little lower. One of the equity pieces that we talk about in the admin, and Ms. Patel, I'll call on you, I promise. One of the equity pieces we have here, Jed, is that you can't attend kindergarten without the support of a supportive adult right now. So that's an equity issue. And so we're glad to have base, but that kinder attendance is really K2 is based on having a supportive adult in your life. And so you look at LA Unified, and I guess I wouldn't be surprised. My heart goes out to how do you do that work? So super important. Patel, do you have a thought on kinder?
I'm one of 6, so I can't speak to attendance anywhere else. But I take attendance in our morning meeting. I take attendance in our small group, and I have an open invitation to come to a small group if they can't make their own. And I take it in closing. The only kids missing in small group have batched in a message saying they're in an assessment, minus an extended holiday for a family who took a 4-day instead of a 3-day weekend. Every single day, I've been blown away.
Yeah.
I am at 100% attendance every single day. The one family that was not 100% attendance did their COVID test, and 2 days later, where they waited to find out, were in attendance every single day, and they couldn't have been if we were on campus.
Yeah,
and so
campus.
their attendance was actually better because they started feeling better. They didn't know yet, and they got to still be in school from home.
My goodness.
So I'm one of 6, but I've been blown away. My number is significantly higher than that. So not even near LA Unified.
Yeah, spectacular stuff happening all across the organization, and I think attendance is a reflection of the hard work that the staff are doing. So thanks everybody for sitting tight. I know it was a long presentation, I had a lot to get through tonight, but if there are no other questions, thoughts, or concerns, I'll turn it back over to Hope.
Hey, John, would you mind checking to see if we've received any public comment? Just before we move on to the next part of our agenda.
Yeah, let's see here. refresh. Yes, I do have a public comment. It's from Anna Thomas. It's opening now. Came at 7:05. Okay. It's a great question. It's a question, and the question is, how is the school assessing the learning loss that occurred in the spring, and how is the school addressing that loss in the fall? It's a phenomenal question.
So typically the board doesn't respond to public comment live at the meetings. It's not agendized item, and it's not agendized for this evening. These are public meetings, which are meetings held in public, though. So at this point, John, would you mind reaching out to our commenter, or is this a topic you'd like to bring back at a future meeting?
I could certainly do both. Also, because we do have an item tonight where we discuss the new LCAP. Some of that is addressed in the LCAP, so certainly that is it is in the board packet. So Ms. Thomas can review that document. If we and then I would certainly reach out to her if you would direct me to do so. And if you'd like, I could certainly come back and present on that exact topic in my executive director's report next month, Ms. Golick.
Is that something which the board would like to have John report back on? I can judge based on a nodding of heads, or a thumbs up, if that's something. I'm seeing support for that, John. So if you wouldn't mind addressing that next month, that'd be fabulous. Yeah. And then if there's any additional questions after reviewing the documents that were in the board packet that's in that learning continuity and attendance plan, or after the presentation, public members should always feel comfortable emailing those to the admin@westlakecharter.com email address, and either we'll get you an answer or incorporate them into the presentation. Does that sound good? Perfect. So with that, I'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on this evening, accept and approve our August board meeting minutes, as well as accept and approve any monetary donations. If there are no questions or corrections to these items, I would ask for a motion to approve.
I move for the consent agenda.
Oh, so we had Ashley, I think, started first. So are you okay if it's Ashley as the motion and Nancy as the second?
I second.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Amy, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Hope?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Vasa?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And Jed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Amy. That brings us to our regular agenda item tonight, which is accept and approve the learning continuity and attendance plan for 2020-2021. We held the public hearing for this last month. Steve, did you have any particular presentation to make tonight?
No, there's no presentation tonight. It's just an item that's coming back to the board for review and approval. And if it's approved tonight, it'll be sent to our authorizers over at Natomas and also the Sacramento County Office of Ed. It is a requirement to be passed by the end of this month and sent to those 2 parties as well.
And again, for members of the public who may be watching this live, that document is available for your review on our website. If you go to the board documents and look for tonight's meeting, it will be there. With that note, is there any discussion or a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Thanks, Josh. Is there a sec? Oh, I missed who the second was. Sean, right? Is it Sean? Yeah? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so we have a motion by Josh and a second from Sean. Amy, would you mind calling the vote again?
Sure. Hope?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Vasa?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And Jed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. So that brings us to our discussion items for tonight, which we have one, and that is the high school report.
Sorry,
I see that Mrs. Batten has joined. Are you kicking this, John, off, or is off? Well, that was jumbled. Is it John or Mrs. Batten?
This will be handed over to Mrs. Batten. I will launch the slides, and she will take the show away. Batten, are you on? There she is right there. Ladies and gentlemen, your high school principal, Mrs. Batten.
I feel like I should give every presentation from a rooftop. I think that's my new thing. I talk to people who are like, why are you on a rooftop? Well, I have to come down sometimes. So thank you all for allowing me to come and speak tonight and talk about our high school program and provide what will be one of several updates over the course of this year as we get closer and closer to our fall 2021 opening. And I will wait for slides to come up so we can start together. Wonderful. Okay. If you could move me, this is going to be fun, Dawn. I'm going to be asking you to move forward. If you could move forward to the next slide, please. And the next, yep. And if you could bring, yep, perfect. So I want to start off tonight's conversation with a thank you, which may be a strange place to start, but I've had the privilege of diving into this high school work, really focused for almost a year now. We started the high school planning end of September, early October of last year, as Leslie Sargent jumped on as our director of high school development. And I said this to you back in April, and now I'm going to use it to frame our conversation tonight. And the thank you comes here, that as we began to do this work, we talked about our high school being an extension of our K-8. And the more that I have combed through and used our foundational documents to make that a reality, I am just so grateful for the work of this amazing board, our phenomenal executive director, and all of our shared leadership teams, because those hours of work in developing that mission statement, I remember sitting in a room on the Del Paso campus, the crowdsourced strategic plan, the effort that went into aligning our core values to the Castle agreements of self-awareness, social awareness, positive decision-making, and digital citizenship have put us in a place where we can truly build our high school and make it an extension of our K-8. And so, again, just a thank you for that work. It's exciting to take part in. I'm excited to share it with you tonight. So tonight's presentation is basically broken into two parts. I'm going to talk about the pieces of our program as they align to our 4 pillars that will be an extension that you will see. Oh, yeah, that's what we do in K-8, and this is sort of what it will look like in high school. But because of that foundation that I spoke of earlier, we are able to begin to innovate and think about high school and think about things in a different way than maybe high school has been done in the past. And so I'm going to talk about those foundational pieces, the extension, and then also some of the innovation. I will warn you, however, that as I share some of the extension pieces, I have some arguments on how they may actually be innovations. But I kept them in extensions because there's something we're familiar with, but I'm going to call it all out tonight. So again, aligned to our pillars, our first pillar, our place in a global world. As we think about this pillar on our campus, on our K-8 campus, and that we are developing a mindset for students to embrace their place in the global world. And how does this manifest in our high school? Well, we're building graduates who are going to graduate with that mindset that they can make a difference in the world, and the power of that. And I will show you tonight through some of the how we are going to operationalize that through high school. But it's exciting to think about that pillar transitioning through our high school program. Enrich educational opportunities. Here's my first place where I'm going to say I think this is a bit of an innovation. That in our K-8, we believe and demonstrate that learning that takes place in the classroom, when we bring it outside of the classroom, when we give students those real life experiences, that we make that in the classroom learning deeper, more authentic. And I think as I have had the privilege of collaborating with other high school leaders around our country, talking about other high school programs with our neighbors and people in Southern California, I see that while I was like, well, of course our 9th through 12th graders will continue to experience the world outside of our 4 walls, that may not be the mindset of other 9th through 12 or high school programs. That you have maybe a college field trip or a trip to a Europe trip that some students are able to take part in. But when we think about these experiences for our students, all means all, just like it does in K-8. So a true extension of our enriched educational opportunities. And that's just one example of how that will operationalize. Okay, I think I'm going to say for all of them that I think it's innovative. I apologize, but I'm just going to call it out. So personalization, a pillar that we hold, very dear to our hearts as we look at it in alignment with our mission statement of developing academic and social emotional ready, inspired adults, that our students in high school will participate in a rigorous course of study via college preparatory courses. So that those courses that were the classes that we are providing in K-8 that are rigorous, that are meeting students where they are and pushing them to that next level, that will manifest in high school through a set of college preparatory courses. And I'll speak a little bit more on the innovative side on that piece in a later slide. And then that if we think about our K-8, there are no closed doors, right? No student is ever told, you can't take that class because you didn't score well enough on this test. No student is ever not able to experience another piece of learning that another student's experiencing. And that same tenet will hold true in our high school, that all students will have open access to all courses. And again, all means all. I believe that whenever I speak of our pillars, whatever position I'm in, I really like tying the personalization pillar and the teachers designers pillar together. I think they speak hand in hand and definitely will continue to do so in our high school. So in high school, we'll see staff creating structures that will allow students to be participants in their successful outcomes. I realize that that's like, what does that mean? I have a slide a little bit later where I'm going to share kind of a fun innovation that we'll be doing to ensure that students are genuinely taking part in their learning. So I think about how that manifests in our K-8 and student-led conferences where students sit down 2 times a year to talk about their academic and social emotional growth and set goals for the coming learning period. And what that will look like in high school, we'll continue that process with a bit of a twist. And then that staff are committed to tiered support through MTSS to support academic and social emotional needs. Again, I think a year ago, as I began this adventure, if you asked me, hey, do high schools have a strong student support services team that focuses on tiered support for all students? I think, well, yes, the state of California tells us we have to. But I would assume that would be carried throughout high school programs. And I think that we do, that high schools attempt to do that. However, as we've worked alongside some of our amazing student support service, the people who are integral in developing the student support services program at our K-8, that we are beginning to see how this manifests in high school in a genuine way, that it's not just something we say we do, it's something that we demonstrate we do through our students. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. Now, the true innovations. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about 4 areas of innovations, and then our next few slides will begin to demonstrate how we will operationalize each of these innovations through our high school program. So the first area that we will be innovating or sharing some innovations in is our use of flexible use of time and resources. Time in school and in industry, around our world is the taking time bomb, right? I guess that's maybe not the best use of words, but that we are we are taking time and making it flexible at Westlake Charter High School. Next, that our students will graduate college proven. If you are in the high school world at all, you hear college ready a lot, and we've taken a play on that word and begun to define what college proven means. I think for me, one of the most exciting pieces is that I love our mission statement. I think if I was going to get a tattoo, which I probably shouldn't say during a board meeting, I would potentially consider the mission statement, just because I think it is such an amazing the manifestation of the mission statement and seeing it in action every day in our K-8, and the ability to truly see that mission statement realized by graduating global citizens. Graduating those individuals that we have worked for 13 years to develop alongside of their families and community is really exciting. And last, that we are going to truly we'll have a small high school, 500 seats when fully grown out, but it will have that big high school feel. and that's not just something that we are saying, that is the intentional planning that has gone in, even this early on, planning to make sure that manifests itself. Next slide, please. Thank you, Mr. Ike. Mm-hmm. So, as we look at our first piece, and I talked about innovations, you are seeing a word that is very familiar. So you may be thinking to yourself, this is bad, and you're about to come talk about innovations, and the word advisory is on this slide. We have advisory in 6 through 8. How is an innovation? Well, as we look at advisory in high school, some of the pieces, the foundational pieces of advisory will continue, right? Advisories will stay together for 4 years. They will meet weekly with a teacher that will stay with them through that 4-year journey. Advisories will be a place where students will continue to develop their social emotional skills, helping them realize that goal of graduating as a global citizen. And innovation in there is the family meeting piece. So I talked about students being a part of their success. So how do we realize the student-led conferences through advisory? Well, in advisory, imagine sitting down with your family, members of your family, and not just limited to mom and dad, but maybe an auntie, uncle, grandma is part of that process with you. And all of those pieces people are intentionally included in this conversation. Our school counselor, your teaching team, and they're helping you realize, develop your 4-year plan, right? Great, we start that year 1. Then that team meets throughout the course of your 4 years at Westlake through a model similar to a student-led conference model. They are checking on progress on the 4-year plan, making adjustments as needed, celebrating successes, and continuing to shepherd you along the way towards that graduation. So that's a piece of this that we have, taken a foundational piece of Westlake Charter School and are beginning to manifest this in high school. The family meeting will also be a piece of the facilitation of a growth portfolio. So this online portfolio where you will intentionally place work samples we're playing with the idea of it being in a website that then on graduation you would make public to the world, so that we're creating a 4-year portfolio that could be taken on to college or career depending on your next step. Next piece, please. So next is our 4x4 schedule. When Leslie and I talked to you in April, we talked about a 4x4 schedule. So you'll remember that a 4x4 means that in the fall of the school year, you take 4 courses. In spring of that same school year, you take 4 different courses. And this, again, the 4x4 on its own is not an innovation. You can look at area schools to see them enacting this piece. But as we talk about that flexible use of time and resources, the 4x4 paired with the next piece, which I will unveil in a minute, is truly where we see the beginning of that flexible use of time and resources. So in a 4x4 model, students are able to take 8 classes in a school year versus 6 or 7 in a traditional model. If you can imagine taking 8 classes to get to your total 290 A through G required units or credits, by the time you get to your senior year, you will have some open spaces in your classes, and we'll talk about how we're planning to fill those spaces. At Westlake, we always have a plan to fill open time. So students will participate in longer learning periods, which will allow for more interpersonal relationships with their leader. They'll be able to, we talk about that pillar personalization. We believe in a 4x4 model with a longer class period that you're able to have more time to personalize to meet the learning needs of all of the students in the classroom. And that there are more course offerings. So we're able to take more classes to become even more competitive on the college market. So I could have just put this slide and said innovation and left it there, because I, as we know from my brain, I'm very red. I love telling stories, so I'm going to open this with a brief story if I can. We developed this concept of flex blocks, I think, in a conversation a year ago. And I know we've shared with you about flex blocks. It's been shared in a video, the idea of it. And so I think I've talked about it so much that I just began to think, well, right, having 50 minutes, 5 days a week as part of your schedule where personalization can take place, both academic and social emotional, is sort of normal. Like that's what schools do. And then this summer, we began to meet with other high school leaders and talk about our program, to run our ideas by them, to kind of test them out and talk to high school teachers who have been in the game for a really long time. And every time when Leslie or I brought up flex blocks, eyes would light up. Like, what? As a teacher, I could teach a lesson on Monday to my student, give them some personalized instruction in class, really begin to figure out where they needed support, meet with my teaching team, program that student into a Tuesday or Wednesday flex block time so they could come meet with me, for 30 or 40 minutes on a given day, and get that extra support they need to then carry forward. And that would all happen within 1 week. The idea of that and the excitement around it began to show me that this was truly an innovation. And so we are so excited to offer this to our students, that 5 days a week, for a significant chunk of time each day, there will be a flex block built into the day. That means that students will receive personalized academic and social emotional support in those flex blocks. The academic support may be intervention, it may be extension. In a moment when I talk about instructional program, you'll see other places where flex block work may take place. So that's one piece of it, the academic piece, but I keep slipping in social emotional. So it would be really easy to just say 5 days a week, let's focus on academic need. But our mission statement speaks to a equal balance between academic and social emotional readiness. And so to intentionally take flex blocks or portions of flex blocks throughout the week and plan for the social emotional needs of our students is a component of this, of what we're operationalizing here. That means that during flex block, students may receive one-on-one counseling services. They may go to lunch bunch. They may participate in clubs and activities. And I think about that piece. And, we've talked a lot over the past few months through the board about equity. And for a student who, in a traditional high school model may have club meetings after school, or activities they have to plan for after school, and they have to run to take care of a younger sibling or go do an after school job, and therefore they're not able to take part in those activities. Intentionally embedding them in the school day allows for everyone to take part in those pieces. You probably should go to the next slide, Mr. Ike. I would talk for quite a bit longer on this piece. So our instructional program, this is something that as I look back through our board presentations over the past 6 months, we've shared different components of our instructional program. So I wanted to come here today to really package it in one place. Thank you again for the feedback that you have given us throughout this process to help develop this instructional program and make it what it is today. So I'm going to talk about it in three pieces. First, our minimum graduation requirements are those UC standards of A through G requirements, right? So every graduate from Westlake Charter High School will be supported to graduate meeting A through G requirements, which then makes them eligible to take part in the UC and CSU system. That in itself is, that's very exciting. It's great, but we don't stop there. We talked to you in April about that, what I just said, that all courses are open to all students, right? And wanting to find a program that realized that philosophy, that allowed all students to take all coursework, but then also was ensuring that our students graduated and were competitive in the college application market. And so we were able, I mentioned in July, that we were able to talk with Chris White and some other high school leaders who are using what is called an embedded honors program, so that students can, within the same course period, and I had a whole scenario written out where John and I were both going to take Math 3, and I was going to go into regular Math 3, and John was going into honors. But essentially, students who are in the embedded honors program and the standard program would be in the program in the same class together. That student who was in the honors program would complete honors coursework, and would then in turn receive a point by passing that class, would receive one of those UC points to calculate towards their UC GPA. There are 8 total points that you can get, so this is just one of the ways that we are helping our graduates ensure that, again, they're receiving all of those points. I will say, I'm going back to FlexBlocks for a second because I just apparently can't leave it alone. That as you think about the embedded honors program, you can leave it on. You can leave it on instructional program, Mr. Ike, sorry. But as you think about the the embedded honors program, and that, if we both have the same syllabus and then the embedded honors students have extra honors coursework. The question I've been getting from some families as we talk about this is, well, does that mean my students are taking home homework? Are they just doing their classwork, right? Because I've got a full syllabus that is obviously fulfilling all of the minutes. No, that flex block is there intentionally for that student to be able to collaborate on that honors coursework with their instructor to complete it during the school day. So again, and that intentional use of flexible time, making time flexible and using resources. And then the last piece, oh, sorry, Ms. Reck, I'm still on instructional program. I'm sorry. The last piece on the instructional program for now is that we are in conversation with American River College to enter a dual enrollment agreement. And going back to those A through G graduation requirements, an additional graduation requirement that will ensure our students are graduating college proven is that all Westlake Charter High School students will graduate having taken at least one college course through the dual enrollment agreement. We're really excited about this partnership. We're seeing ARC begin to be really innovative and working with our dual enrollment partners, especially their smaller charter partners. So in the past, it seems like maybe smaller charter schools were kind of at the bottom of the barrel. The new dean of dual enrollment is really advocating for those smaller charters to ensure that they are getting an equal slice of the pie. And we are excited about that piece, and we'll be working with that team as we continue to craft our dual enrollment agreement. Dual enrollment affords every student the opportunity to take that one class as part of their graduation requirement. However, it also like our enriching educational opportunities, also expands the door, right? You think about that student who maybe needs to take a math class that wouldn't be offered on our campus in order to be competitive to enter a rigorous engineering program. And that dual enrollment program, the dual enrollment agreement, would allow that student access to that course, and that student would receive college credit for free. So very exciting there. All right, now I will move on. So the last piece around innovation is something, again, that if I was to describe it just as it is on the slide, it is a true extension, right? We know at Westlake Charter School that the innovative practices we engage in K-8 are only possible when our teachers have time to collaborate, which is why we carve out time in our day. And there's another thank you for the board and honoring that time and time again coming to making sure that our schedule allows for our teachers to have that collaborative time. So as we look at these innovations, flex blocks, embedded honors, the things that we are doing that will require our teachers to be fully engaged in the day-to-day learning of their students, intentionally creating collaborative time for all staff. So you'll see that doesn't say teacher collaboration, it's collaborative time. In order for us to be a school that is moving together, intentionally creating schedules that allow all staff members to collaborate multiple times a week for that real-time assessment of data and use of that flexible learning time to ensure that students are getting what they want, or what they need and want every single week in the intentional planning of that time. So again, this is a piece that, because the foundation is so strong in our K-8, we are able to innovate and ensure that these pieces that may be extra or outside the box or different have the staff is given the time they need to execute them. Okay, so there we have it. What does learning look like at a glance for our Westlake Charter High School? What does this give you? Next slide, please. Gives you your high school, a school where students walk in each day and they feel like home. They feel like, oh, this is Westlake, but the high school version, where the core values are still the foundation of the school, in a very cool ombre color, though. Where students interact with the learning space in an intentional way that promotes independence and those executive functioning skills that are so necessary at the high school level. Where the halls feel welcoming, but develop what feels like a real high school experience. And then the last piece is my favorite part. So you see in front of you this was not supposed to be part of my presentation, but I snuck it in. You see in front of you a WCHS blazoned on a gym wall under a basketball hoop behind a volleyball court net, and you may be thinking to yourself, we know we've talked about sports. What does that mean for us? Well, we have submitted our application to CIF, the Sac-Joaquin section, and we'll be offering a full array of sports next year in the fall, winter, and spring seasons. I can't wait to come back and talk to you in more detail about that as we present our student culture pieces and more information about how we're going to make our small school give our students that big school experience. Mr. Ike, I skipped my favorite slide.
Oh, there it is.
Look at, and so as always, let's explore. Okay, thank you. I needed some spirit hands on the GIF there. So, board, I meant to open up by saying I was going to take questions at the end, and I welcome your questions. I may not be able to answer all of them tonight, but if I can't answer it, I will write it down, and I will be back next month, I believe, to present even more about our high school. So please, questions that you may have about our high school.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I really, really love the part about engaging the family in the first year as part of the students' kind of learning process and setting a plan that they can begin to work on day one. I cannot tell you how many, people in my life who were never coached about what it takes to get to college until they were already in their junior or senior year, when we all know that many of the grades before that is what really counts. And so I just really love that engagement. And I love the fact that the family or, their trusted adults in their circle are going to be able to be engaged and be able to help the student along.
Yeah, if I can just share something on that piece, I think an unintended benefit of the family meeting that we're developing is I have over the past few weeks been talking with 8th grade families. So I've just been, I think in a perfect world, we would have had a town hall in September. We would have invited all the 8th grade families in. Everyone would have gathered. We would have begun to share this information, and that's just not possible. So in order to get the information to our families, I've just been reaching out and setting up time to talk with each of them. And just given the number of families that have asked me, well, what does it take to get to college? Like, what does A through G mean? What does it take to get to college? Has been really phenomenal. I have now had this little packet of parent information that I emailed to them because I think you're right. We do take for granted that by the time that they get there, we're good, right? We can just kind of walk away. But the amount of support that needs to be put in place by that community is tremendous. So thank you for calling that out.
To chime in, and just a shout out to you and your commitment to expanding that family meeting beyond a typical parent meeting or guardian meeting. It's not just the student and the one parent that can make it on a Tuesday night to a 5 o'clock or whatever. You're saying, no, let's bring in your whole community. Do you have a cousin, an auntie, who do you got? Bring them in. And I love that concept because, as you acknowledge, it takes a lot of support to get a student from here to there. So good on you. I mean, I love that commitment. Keep that language strong.
Thank you.
I had one question / comment. I was really interested in how we were going to fulfill our initial goal to not have tracking and still provide those advanced placement courses. And first of all, I just think, the way that you've structured it and set it up is amazing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that opportunity works out for our students. But I just wanted to know, have you seen that at other schools before? I noticed you said that free block of time was pretty innovative, and you hadn't heard of it. But have other schools removed tracking and still provided access to advanced placement in this way?
It's a great question, Boston. Thank you for giving me a chance to thank Jed again. That in our April board meeting, we said, hey, we're not looking to offer AP because it creates an AP and a non-AP track in a small school, especially. And Jed was like, hey, I encourage you to dig deeper into that. So we were able to connect with Chris White at High Tech High to talk about their embedded honors program. He also connected us with, and the name is escaping me right now, I'm so sorry, another counselor at an area high school who also has engaged in the, and those honors classes, I don't think I mentioned this, are UC approved honors courses, which is why it allows that extra point to be added to the GPA. So yes, to your point, I think it's such an important part of our work, right? To innovate and to think outside the box, but to ensure that we are still checking those boxes and making sure that our students are prepared and that it's actually feasible to do that. So yes, we have seen it in action. We'll continue to partner with those schools as we develop this further.
That's just amazing work, and I really think it's a great model that I'd like to share as we develop it as a school. Like to show people what's possible in our community. That we don't have to tell students from their freshman or sophomore year that they're in one class and this is a class for other kids, that they can be together and experience the same learning environment is huge, and it's just not happening across the country really. So I'm really proud of that work. Good job.
Thanks.
I think Nancy and then Sean. I think Nancy.
Oh, sorry, I can't see everybody. I apologize.
No, I realized you couldn't, and I apologize. So Nancy had waved, and then I got Sean waving. Nancy, you still got a question? Did Nancy freeze? Oh, there she is.
Yes, but my microphone wouldn't go off, so my apologies for that. Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
No.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I didn't know if everybody froze on my screen, so my apologies for that. I think there's something wrong with my internet. So first off, thank you. Amazing work. I don't know when you had time to work on any of this and do your other job as well as, K principal up until May. So thank you for everything that you've done, the research that you've done, and really just the grounds up work is phenomenal. So I just had some really general questions about things like electives and being able to, because there are other requirements, like fine arts requirements and whatnot. So is there an intention to also offer, music and, all these kind of other extracurricular things? And is that built into that flex time? We talk a lot about, A through G requirements, but, there's also, the reality is that, not everybody's, ready for college, and, that's a reality. And I think that we have to think about that as part of our program. That there are interests and other things outside of A through G requirements. So just general question about that.
For sure. And if first, if I could just thank again, I feel like I'm on a thank you train right now, but thank Mr. Ike for his foresight and the developing the planning team for our high school. So I have to give a shout out to Leslie Sargent. I am not a sole operator. She has been doing a tremendous amount of work since October when she joined our team, and has really made me so much smarter. And so this working alongside of her has truly been a gift. So that is a big piece of why we are where we are today. And Nancy, I love your question around electives. So yes, within those A through G requirements, we know that F is visual and performing arts. So we will offer electives to meet that requirement, and that we also have the general electives requirement under H, that we are ensuring that our students are meeting those elective requirements on campus. However, I love your call at the end to what about those students who, we talked a lot tonight about college, right? And that we know there are students who will elect not to take that pathway. And our dual enrollment agreement actually creates this amazing opportunity for students to take CTE courses. American River College has just this, I've begun to just thumb through the course offerings. And when we were talking to their dean, she was painting this picture of students taking culinary arts programs through dual enrollment and receiving micro certificates that they could then plug together to actually create a job, to career certificates, right? Something that you could leave high school with one more community college class required to then get a certificate that actually is career ready. So that the elective offerings, ensuring that we're developing that full, well-rounded student experience, along with that opportunity to participate in CTE courses, I think will speak to all students that we're meeting the needs of everybody.
Yeah, and on that note, there are 15 A to G courses, I believe. If you take 8 courses per year on our 4x4 schedule over 4 years, you have an opportunity to take 32 courses at Westlake Charter High School. So only 15 of those are required A to G. So Nancy, there's plenty of opportunity for students to take other coursework that meets their personalized needs. On the note about college readiness, college provenness, and college desire, there may be children out there who don't desire a pathway to college, but it is not up to the school to determine who is and who is not an appropriate candidate for college. All students will graduate from Westlake Charter School prepared and college proven. And at that end of the day, when we hand them the diploma, if they decide to not go to college, it was because of a personal or family decision, not because the school failed to prepare them. So I love the way we're rolling right now, which is A to G. We're going to get you to the finish line. We're going to encourage you the whole way. And if you decide to go military, open a small business, or start a family, that decision was not based on our failure to prepare you to enter college and be prepared to be successful. So I think we get to play the best of both worlds there. Sorry, it was Sean and then Nancy. I'm sorry, did that answer your question, Nance? You were good. Sean Berman and then Ashley Patel.
Sorry, my microphone thing kept disappearing when I tried to click on it. I've never had that happen before. I have a question about the embedded honors, which sounds super exciting, but my question is more sort of logistics on that. Does that mean that, I mean, I don't even know what I'm trying to envision. Let's envision a math class, and there's, you know, the class itself would be doing 30 math questions for homework or 30, you know, whatever per day. Does that mean that the honors, and are they going to be doing 45 math questions? Are their 30 questions going to be different questions than the 30 questions that the other kids take? How does that work?
So I think your scenario B, different questions, but you know that the ability to take those questions that are potentially that higher order thinking, those questions that are going to cause you to go deeper. But also, as we talk to other schools that have this embedded honors program, they're quite often projects, right? So I'm taking the learning I'm doing in this class and I'm applying it to a real world example and developing a project that then is shared in an authentic with an authentic audience. So a little bit of a callback to our PBL days, you know, in our middle school program. Again, that it's not intended to just be more like here's an extra worksheet for you to do. It's intended to be an enriching of the learning opportunity for those students to go deeper in a subject area where potentially they have a strength or an interest. You know, as we talk to those counselors, they often will find students who, you know, we're like, academically maybe not quite there yet, but they're just dying to dive deeper into social science, and so that honors program actually sparks a learning opportunity that they may not have had if that program wasn't there. So it's not more rigorous, different applications of the learning, and then being completed in class, but also through that flex block period.
Okay, great, thank you. That was kind of what I was trying to get at. Is it just sort of punitive more work, which seems like the sort of thing that is going to dissuade people, which I was positive was not what you intended. So that's why I was trying to get at that.
And Sean, another way to think, just to conceptualize that portion of the program, is that it's not just extra output, it's an increased input. So it's not just doing an extra 15 problems. You're actually, during your flex block, potentially meeting with a small seminar group of students who are taking that honors course and the teacher themselves for an extra seminar session to enrich a particular problem of practice or study. So yeah, not just more problems, but more opportunities to grow in there. Mrs. Patel?
I just have been doing a lot of reflecting about this piece, and that since you've been talking, and just thinking about a lot of layers. One being just how much a kid personally grows in their 4 years of high school, and personally and academically how they change, just the change you go through in those like physical years of life, and the work that our school is doing as we're talking about equity and inclusivity. We mentioned the letter earlier today and the forward thinking, and to me, like, this is an example of that. A student who may be coming from another school who has never been opened the door to opportunities and lesser performing is sitting next to a student who's taking the same AP class, and they're going, wait, I just have to do this project and I get to do it alongside my teacher. And I just, the doors that this is going to open around that equity for kids in comparison to other models just makes my heart so happy.
Yeah, and I have to say that I look at VASA when I say this, because I think that while we are very proud of this innovative piece in our high school model, I know that VASA has had 6th graders and 8th graders and 7th graders who've come through his classroom who have been told in elementary school, hey, you can't do that, you're not good at that, or who have been put in different classes because of their academic ability, and then they get to Westlake and we watch them shine. And I know not just in middle school, but across our board, first, K through 8. And so again, just that, speaking to that foundation, having a strong model that we can look at and point to and have examples of. So when people are like, well, that's not possible, I'm like, well, I have these 4 students who show me that it is. So
Jed Wallace.
Thank you, John. Emily, thank you. Excited about what you've got going on. Excited about how excited you are about it. One question and one suggestion. Question: have you started to have the conversations already with potential staff and other leaders about how you're going to deal with ability grouping that usually translates into kids going into different math levels? And then when you're a small school, once you have ability grouped by math, you're basically going to keep those kids segregated across all the rest of the day. This has been a sore spot, in schools like this over and over again. It really often gets to be a tension between administration and faculty. Mm-hmm. Faculty start saying, okay, I love this idea of common intellectual mission and no ability grouping, but it's impossible. I've got kids, ready for calculus in 10th grade, with kids that, are really, at a whole other level. Just let me start grouping them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just wondering, how are you thinking about assigning kids to classrooms, first of all, and then to the extent that you're going to lean against, which I hope you're going to, a kind of ability grouping at the math level that then translates through into the rest of the school. How are you thinking about having the conversations with your faculty such that this does not become the faculty administration tension that I've seen it be in other places?
Yeah, it's great. And I would love to come back to the board next time as I present on our next topic and dive deeper into this concept, because it definitely has been a really great conversation that Leslie and I have engaged in as well. When we talked to Chris White at High Tech High, we asked just kind of about that piece as we saw that math was sort of the linchpin to the rest of the scheduling model. And so from a staffing perspective, I would love to come back and just dive deeper into what we've been doing around the intentional recruitment of staff who will come on with the right mindset, and then developing that mindset before we ever get to summer, right? How can we get that staff on board early and then spend our springtime really building a model together that we all believe in and can sign off on, that before students come through the door that we're there. But again, if you would be okay with me bringing back a deeper dive into that at our next board meeting, I'd be happy to do that piece.
Okay, well, of course. And I imagine this will be an ongoing challenge, right?
Yes.
And this was also something at High where it was helpful to the administration that the board had basically said, thou shalt. You cannot. There is no way, right? And so it got blamed on the board rather than the administration. But, I'm accentuating the negative here. I mean, usually these things weren't a source of huge tension, but they did come up from time to time. Secondly, this is just around suggestion. Okay. When you have a school like this and you're going to evaluate your teachers and you're really going to think about what percentage of the instruction is really geared toward this enriched learning experience, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just feel like there's so many different metrics you can choose to evaluate your teachers and to say, hey, this is what we're really looking for. Mm-hmm. The piece that I would come back to, get rid of a lot of the other metrics for measuring the effectiveness of teachers. What percentage of the kids' work products have a useful life outside the classroom? Mm. That's it. Mm. Over and over again. If it has a useful life outside the classroom, then it actually was a project. Mm-hmm. If it's just paper mache, animal of huge kind, and it's a fancy diorama, I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
Can we get our folks anchored to work of that kind? It's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly hard to do PBL at this level. But if you can start this, hey, are there ways for us to evaluate this? Did we actually achieve 30% this year?
Yeah.
Can we go to reasonable to get to 40% next year? Whatever it may be. I just put it out there as a perhaps anchoring metric for evaluating, whether the teaching is on the course that we want it to be, as something that might be of use to you.
I love it. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Jed. At teacher evaluation we are developing a high school handbook that kind of holds all of it. That will be soon be ready for you to kind of begin perusing through. And teacher evaluation is one that has a lot of bullet point thoughts underneath it, and we're getting ready to synthesize those. So I appreciate that thought. I will put that piece in and kind of see how we can operationalize that. Thank you.
Excellent. Hope, I think you're next.
Thank you. And I may have missed this somehow, so I apologize. Knowing it's a 4-block schedule and there's going to be room for some different electives, is there a plan to offer an ethnic studies or social justice course as a graduation requirement?
That's an awesome question, Hope. So I'm sure you're up to date on some of the movement in the CSU system and in our state to ensure that, and I think last I saw maybe it was 15, 20 years out, that they were going to start mandating that schools offer that social justice, ethnic studies, some sort of course in that bucket. Yes, so that is definitely something that we are working with our partners to conceptualize and see what we could do. We are potentially thinking a little bit bigger than a course, maybe like a certificate program. I don't think I was supposed to. I was like,
oh, it's good.
Yes, so a certificate program of some sort in that area, and there are wonderful models around us right now. American River College has an associate's degree. Sac State is working on a degree pathway in a department specifically for this. So, yes, definitely consideration in our supplement. Ms. Drake?
Yeah, just, to put a little meat on the bones that maybe we're not supposed to yet because it's not in ink yet, but to conceptualize a multi-part series that began in 9th grade with the concept of ethnic studies, or even a trip to the Tolerance Museum in LA and how that aligned to the social justice standards, stepping into sophomore year, studying the diversity of our community and stepping into junior year and seeing how social justice aligns to that 11th grade U.S. history set of standards. Like, considering a multi-tiered pathway to this type of work is something that Emily and Leslie and the team are scratching on in collaboration with ARC. It is really, I know you don't want to throw it out there yet, Em, but it is really cool work, you guys. I think you'd be very proud of the behind-the-scenes work that Mrs. Batten's doing in this area.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see, too. I know this is a policy thing, but AB 331 requires it, for incoming freshmen in 2025 if it's signed by the governor. I think it's on his desk. But I just know we can do so much more with that, and we can do it sooner and better. Absolutely. And so that was really where that question came from. And, John, I go back to that CCSA session we went to, and how they had integrated a lot of those topics K-12, but just really seeing it from the ground with our 9-12 program is awesome. So thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, it's backwards plan that all the way down to kindergarten. Are there any other hands being waved that I'm not seeing?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was missing some of you too. I apologize for not seeing you earlier.
I didn't know until Ashley explained how to do the pinning and the thinging and so
it's a good piece.
I didn't see any other hands, John.
Ms. Batten, thank you for your presentation and for taking questions. And board, if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, suggestions regarding the high school, I encourage you to reach directly to me, and I will take all of it and put it into my onto my working doc with Mrs. Batten. So please, any high school thought you have, everything you're thinking is really powerful for us. So send it directly to me, and I will facilitate that, making sure it gets to Mrs. Batten. Ms. Batten, thank you again. Excellent work tonight.
John, will you please just do one last check for public comments?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I've got like 800 screens open here. Let's see. And no new public comments.
Perfect. So that brings us to future agenda items. we have a topic that will come back in John's executive director report, as we discussed earlier. I also listed goal setting here for October. It may be November by the time we work through all the different goals. We'll definitely have it on for discussion in October. I just don't know that it will be ready for action. Are there any other agenda items the board would like to see on a future agenda?
I think this will be too premature for October, but I probably should have asked when Miss Batten was on the line, but would love to hear about the hiring plan and strategy for the high school as that moves forward. So when that time is appropriate.
Excellent, thank you. And Ms. Wells, make sure you tag me in that note. I know that Mrs. Gibbons, that is a part of a future presentation. I'm just not sure which one, but I'll make sure Mrs. Batten knows that that's something we're very interested in seeing. And I think you're really, really excited to see the work that she's already documented along those lines. Really, like what is the profile of the perfect Westlake Charter High School staff member? So, yeah.
Not seeing any others, that will bring us to reflection this evening. I don't want to go in alphabetical order. We'll go in reverse. So we'll just do it that way. So Vasa, you're first, and then Steve, if you're interested in reflecting.
So many reflections. There was a lot to celebrate tonight. I think, I don't know. I mean, I've been here for almost a decade now, and like many of you, have seen this grow. And the idea, when Batten started off by talking about our high school as just a kind of a natural extension of our middle school, I just wanted to, just reflect on that, the structures and things that we built our K-8 on, I mean, they're who we are, and I think they transcend into a high school very well, or they transition us into high school very well, and I'm excited to see our mission fulfilled in that way.
Thanks, Vasa. Steve, and then Sean.
Yeah, I think the high school update this evening by Miss Batten was fantastic. I know she and Leslie Sargent have just were working quite a bit behind the scenes to build it and put it all together. And not the presentation, the high school. So again, just a shout out. That was a great job tonight.
I was super excited by how excited Mrs. Batten was about everything she was presenting. But actually, what I would like to compliment Mr. Ike on was showing us the data. Although, as Hope says, perhaps lack of data at this point, but the data on the why October 19th, why not November 3rd, why not right after break? I mean, it seemed random, and now it's completely obvious why it's October 19th or whatever it ends up being.
Right, because as we're all going through this changing environment, at least knowing where the goal line is for now is so helpful in dealing with change and anxiety and unknown. So I'll cut in now, do mine early, but I have to ditto you, Sean. Like just setting the posts, right, and knowing what the next step is, what the next check-in is with all this is just so important. Nancy, then Michelle. If Nancy wants to come back.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. So I am so happy because there's so much uncertainty with COVID and everything that I am so happy that we're just moving forward. Like whatever it is, whether it's, continuing with school, thinking about, going back into, phase 2 or, whatever the next step is, whether it's high school, I'm just so heartened about this team continuing to move forward because it's probably, one of the more stable things that's actually happening right now, right? So much unknown, but we're so prepared for it and so glad to, continually hear the excitement and, that it's not all bad. We keep saying, it's 2020. Well, there's a lot of really great things happening here as part of 2020 as well. So I am so happy to be part of this organization. So.
My reflection is very similar. I think I'm excited to be a part of a school that is not rushing to move forward, but really doing things thoughtfully in terms of distance learning and celebrating the successes through it. I kudos on the attendance rate. I'm pleasantly shocked that that's what our attendance rate is right now, and it's great to see. And then to what Ms. Houston talked about in terms of the feedback from the parent community, I've heard that, and I've also seen some of the schools that are really rushing forward and what's happening around that throughout the state, and so I'm really excited. And I also want to just highlight the virtual back to school night, which for somebody who at times can really struggle with scheduling and being able to get there because of late nights at work, I was so pleased to have the opportunity to go virtually and to engage. And then two, just as a part of the parent community, it felt good to connect with other parents and see their faces on the line. And I really did enjoy that. And so I really appreciate all the work being done by Westlake staff and teachers and everyone involved.
Josh and then John.
Yeah, I'm going to ditto John's COVID reopening presentation. That's pressing on everybody's mind, and I really like the way, John, you were able to explain it. To me, it seems so simple once you were able to break it down that way. I don't know if that's anything we would consider, putting in a Westlake Weekly or providing, because I really do think you simplified it enough that we could try to answer questions before they come up of when do we reopen, when's the next check-in, and I think you created a method to do that, and I want to celebrate that.
Yeah, maybe I'll just record a short video of just those 3 or 4 slides and make that available to people. That's great. Thanks, Josh. Hope, is it me? My reflection is about language, and that language matters so much because it shapes our ability to perceive what we're looking at. And when I came here in 2014, this board, we all started talking about equity in a different way. We were talking about the fact that our elementary school only had 12% free and reduced lunch, and that we had to really work hard. Now, we're closer to 40% free and reduced lunch. Language mattered because we put our focus on something. And I'm listening to this board right now at every single junction and every single turn tonight. We brought up equity, and we brought up diversity, and we talked about racial inequalities, and I love it because it's starting to reframe our own perceptions around every single topic. And so at this moment right now, just hearing our collective language taking a shift in this direction is really powerful. And I think that's a highlight that was on every single topic that we talked about tonight. Your words came through loud and clear. So I think we're heading in the right direction, board.
Jed and then Ashley.
Just a reflection on comment that I heard in an interview I did with Howard Fuller last week, and he was encouraging all of us in Charterland to be using the COVID moment to be more bold and ambitious about the kinds of profound changes that we push through. So, there's so much stuff that's on the right track here in terms of continuing to go on a high school and how we're handling the COVID thing. This is the same thing, John, I brought up in the governance committee, right? I think that there are opportunities now to push things forward that we wouldn't have had before, that will make us much stronger for the longer term. So that's just the thing that I would be interested in. What are you learning and what are you doing so differently now that you don't think you're ever going to be going back? And what are the things that you're wondering, do you have board mandate to go even further and test the compliance issues or test, the acceptance level of our authorizer or whatever? I would love to see you guys just pushing even harder to evolve school faster and see what comes out on the other end.
Thanks, Jed. Ashley?
I would ditto the board on all things. My initial reflection and I thought for sure being at the end of the alphabet would have already been said now, so I was kind of excited. There's a statement that says good things happen to good people, but I think the full statement probably is good things happen to good people who have good intentions that work really, really hard. And I feel like when they announced the Silicone schools, it was like kind of a Field of Dreams moment. If you build it, it will come. And so I was definitely dancing in my seat for that piece, and so grateful to have Jed on our team to bring them to us. When we first saw those numbers, I thought that'd be amazing. But every iteration with this high school piece, it's just so exciting, and that just opens so many doors. So that's my celebration.
Thanks, Ashley. Let's see. I'll throw in one of these days I'll be able to count items in order on the agenda. It didn't happen this meeting. I didn't. For all the OCD or DCO out there, I will tell you that there was no item 10 that we skipped. I skipped it myself. But my real reflection is the fact that anyone out there who thought that these meetings would be shorter or less deep or less effective should really watch one of our meetings to see how effective this meeting style can be in these times. We do them well, and everyone comes ready and prepared, and I super appreciate that. I don't see this all the time in the many meetings I go to, and so it always makes me super grateful to be here and spend these 2.5 hours with you. With that, I am happy to adjourn this meeting, though, at 8:54. So thanks, everyone. See you at the next committee meeting or next month.
Great. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, all.